Abai alone inside. He's got the breakaway with the touch to the right. Goal! Everything you wanted from this debut. It's Brandon Bai. Taking a shot with the left. Goal! Isaac Friend from 25 yards out. The equalizer. Will Kidd with the touch of the goal. It's a go-ahead goal. Minneapolis City.
This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
Come one, come all to the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City SC, that is Soccer Club. I'm joined, as always, by my illustrious co-host, the John Bisworm. John, there's been a lot of soccer to take in this month. It's kind of refreshing, isn't it?
It's kind of nice. You're 100. First off, hello everyone. Nate, hope you're doing well. It has been. I mean, you have our domestic league that's somehow avoiding COVID. We have the Premier League has started. We're getting spun up on things like the other international leagues. There was some Carabao Cup today action that was going on. I mean, it's great. And then obviously we have a little Minneapolis City 7v7 action. So lots of soccer, as you noted. But
let me ask you a question. What
Sure.
is the difference between what is now known as the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup?
I don't know. The nice part is, Nate, that we have this thing called the internet in front of us. So let me
Google it.
me
Because when I'm
look that
thinking
up.
about it, in FIFA, you play both, and it feels like the Carabao Cup pays you much less when you win.
Yeah, and isn't Carabao beef jerky?
I think it's like a weird European Red Bull.
Okay, so the EFL Cup, referred to historically and colloquially as the League Cup, currently known as the Carabao Cup for sponsorship reasons, is an annual knockout competition in men's domestic English football. Organized by the EFL, it is open to any club within the top 4 levels of English football. So it's like the FA Cup, but only the top 4. Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks like it started 60 years ago. And it covers the regions of England and Wales, so underneath the United Kingdom.
Yes.
The current champions are Manchester City, their 7th EFL or Carabao Cup. And most successful team is Liverpool, 8 titles. And it's televised across the world and locally in the United Kingdom on Sky Sports.
They love their Sky Sports.
They love it. It's like it's their go-to. But anyways, we have a lot to talk about today as it regards to our slice of the soccer pie, which is the 7v7 Ben Wexler Brotherhood Cup Week 5 action. Before we start that, Nate, our friends across our bigger cousins across the river just picked up a new signing via the trade route.
I saw that.
Sending some GAM, TAM, FAM, spam money, whatever you call it, over to the Colorado Rapids for the 5th all-time leading goal scorer in Major League Soccer history, and that is Kai Kamara. What do you think about that, Nate?
I can't believe no one's made that joke before. Maybe I just haven't heard it. To be able to, I'm sending GAM and TAM and Kansas spam for a new. Yeah, so Kai Kamara, huh? I mean, that's pretty cool. He had he was in England for a little bit. He's 36 years old, so he's no spring chicken, John. But it's funny that they signed him because didn't he bury United in the MLS's back tournament with
in league play? He did.
Yeah.
But here's my question, Nate. So you have let's go back in the annals of history with Minnesota United. Their first ever draft pick was a striker with hamstring injuries in Abu Danlandi. Then the next year, with lots of holes to fill, they selected Mason Toye, another striker, one who has his own injury issues, not as much as Abu Danlandi is. It has, but then it's more of a project player, a freshman at a Big Ten school, had a great freshman season, but definitely not someone you're going to plug in and play. So then we go the Angelo Rodriguez route. We bring him in, and then we find out that his old ass was way washed up, and we got rid of him. And then we bring in really exciting Almeria, who before COVID was just cruising. And then for backup purposes, for some squad depth, we bring in the big celery, Aaron Schoenfeld. And then we decide now that we need to bring in another striker.
Yes.
So it begs the question, was the injury that Almeria picked up in I believe it was a groin injury or some sort of abdominal injury?
Great.
What was that?
The first game of MLS is back, or second game, picked it up.
He picked it up in warm-ups for the first game. Yep. And then I believe that they may have tried to rush him back, and he wasn't quite ready to come back. And that's why he hasn't been playing. But then you have an injury to Aaron Schoenfeld, who I actually feel fits the Heath system a little bit better than Almeria does, because he's more of that hold-up guy who can just bomb into the box. And then we've shown that our wing play is where our goals and our services come from. But then you have Mason Toye even trotting his lazy ass out there, and he's not really producing much. Was he a goal in 4 starts or something like that? So I get that they'd bring another striker, but is this an admission that maybe the Mason Toye experiment is over?
I don't know. I think I'm not ready to give up on Mason yet.
I am. I will say that he's garbage. He's not good enough.
I think there was definitely an issue between Mason and Darwin, because Darwin was a little bitch. Right?
You mean a really good soccer player versus one who's not really good? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I think there was an issue. I don't think they were on the same page. So when they were on the field together, it wasn't very good. I did notice in the last game that Mason had a chance at a goal, but decided to instead box the defender out and give the goal to Robin Lurd. So why wouldn't you do something like that? That was just a nice guy thing to do. But yeah, I'm not sure what the deal is with him. I would say it's hard to, beyond what they do in the game, which obviously Mason has not been great in game. Schoenfeld has shown a couple flashes before getting hurt. Almeria looked so good for a second.
Yeah, I was super excited about him coming in.
Hard to say with this team how much of it is the player and their talent level, and how much of what happens with the Loons has to do with coaching and management.
Well, I think it's more coaching and management, to be honest with you. I mean, the one person we didn't mention was
Christian
Ramirez, who is a proven goal scorer. The guy was scoring 2 goals every 4 games.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he just stopped.
Yeah, because he was then put aside for these draft picks they brought in.
Could you imagine getting replaced by that guy?
I mean, on my Stegman's team, yeah.
I just remember when they signed him and they were like, "He's coming," and they threw out the hype video, and it was 100% penalties.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we knew what he was good at. We didn't
from the spot.
Yeah,
Maestro.
So I think it leans heavily on the system and then the front office. Here's my one gripe. I work in the front office of our small slice of soccer pie, like I mentioned. Mm-hmm. If we make a bad call on a player, I'm 100% responsible for bringing that player into the club, and then the coaching staff is 100% responsible for selecting that player in the trial process, and then ultimately for games. That 100% on us. We would admit that we've not made great calls, but what we're seeing is this here's the next guy up that we're signing that we have this hype video for, and then we just kept kind of going through that process, and there was no admission of we got it wrong. We traded one guy who definitely wasn't right, but we're still trying to hold on to this hope this other guy doesn't completely pants us as being terrible draft selectors when it comes to attacking players in the MLS Super Draft. So I'd like a little bit of we brought Kai Kamara in because, one, obviously the guy can score goals, but he's an old ass dude too. So it's Does he still have anything left in the tank that we can use, or is it a stopgap? There's been no explanation as to why they even went hunting for a striker, and then they picked him.
That's such a great point, because it feels like every player signing is just a hype video. It's just like, here he is off the plane from Argentina, Reynoso, and you're supposed to be like, why? Who?
Well, that's a little bit different one. That guy was proven, and he played for Boca Juniors, so it's not like we're picking him off of the scrap heap in. But
I'm just saying in general.
Right.
Between Chacon, between any of these new kids or new guys that they've been signing and announcing, there's never really communication as far as like, here's what we're super excited about. We're hoping
here's why we signed him.
Exactly. Here's the role we're hoping this guy could fill. He's going to do A, B, and C. He's going to fit in really well with player 1, 2, and 3, and we're really happy to be able to have landed him and to move forward with him. And if Kai Kamara is kind of the stopgap, and you just want a healthy body that you can throw up top
who can score goals,
right? To throw a header in every once in a while, then say it. Just be like, look, we're thin, and the playoffs are coming.
Well, right. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Chacon. That's another one. It's just like, what were we even doing? You bring in you rip a guy out of his home country who's super young, who's probably like has super ties to his family. You bring him to cold ass Minnesota. Like, he hasn't even experienced like a true fall or winter here. He's probably gonna be like, what did I fucking sign up for? You bring him here, you don't play him, and then now you're talking about loaning him back home. So now you've soured this guy on the parent club that signed him, and then you're sending him back to where he came from with what hope? Like, why did you bring him here? Like, if you look at the other folks that came into the league when United did, in Atlanta United, I've said it on this show multiple times that like they figured it out. They do it right. Their draft picks have hit, their free agents have hit. They've brought players in like Almiron and said, this guy is coming in to help us now, and we plan to sell him when his stock is high. And that's exactly what they did. They're transparent about it. So their fan base is like, hell yeah, like, we trust our front office. We're in this weird zone of like, we're in hype video. We are. We're in one massive hype video, Nate, and that's all we are. And it's a little frustrating because I just want a little bit more transparency, and you don't have to tell us all your plans, but a little bit of a reason why I think would go a long way. I mean, we're diving way down the rabbit hole here, but like, look at Ozzy Alonso and Ike Opara. Like, Ozzy Alonso is just held together by duct tape at this point in his career, and he does a fine job when he's in there, but he's only in there 1 every 5 games because of his injury history. But then like this Kai Kamara injury, have you ever been like read anywhere of like what it actually is and why he's not playing?
You mean Amaria?
No, I mean Ike Opara.
Oh, I thought you said Kai Kamara, so I was like,
sorry,
no,
Ike Opara. Like,
I had thought that he didn't go to the MLS's back tournament because he just did not want to put himself in that bubble. Given that so many teams were getting COVID to start and all that, right. But I had no idea that he might have actually been injured.
Right, me either.
And then he never came back. So
and
it's
he's
like,
still not
what's
back.
wrong with him?
Right, exactly. Like, does he have like some sort of like health condition that like would mean he's no longer going to be a member of the squad, or are they just waiting for his contract to run out? Which all that stuff is well and fine. Soccer's a business, right? You have to make those type of decisions, but like that lack of transparency as to like, hey, has an injury. I know there's like the HIPAA stuff that flies into the conversation, but still to say like he has a long-term injury and we don't foresee him to be back, or his injury is short-term and he didn't go to the MLS bubble because of the whole COVID concern. All that stuff is perfectly acceptable, but just say it. Not like we're still trotting Aha out there at center back and he's okay, but like you have the defensive player of the year in MLS, like the top defender in the entire league, Nate, on your roster, and you're like, he's not playing, he's not suiting up again. Next question, like, what's going on? Like, and what's the long-term plan? Is the kid that they drafted who's playing in USL the long-term plan? Is Aha the long-term plan? Like, it's not rocket science here, and it's frustrating for fans, I think.
I agree. I think to put a pin in it and to move on, it's one thing to say that like the team is winning and we're high flying and we're scoring a lot, and so the next signing deserves a hype video, hype, hype, hype. You get in this cycle, but like you know, in general, with as all things are in the MLS, like we're just not super consistent, and it's hard to get into the team when you don't know what to expect week after week, and it's even harder to not know what to expect when you don't understand what's going on with the players you're trying to follow. So
right.
The hype videos feel a little like a smokescreen at this point, and less like something to get me pumped up.
In all fairness, they're well produced, so at least there's that.
Yeah, they have a good agency.
It's not some shitty iPhone video of some guy in Costa Rica scoring penalties. All right, enough about those guys. Now on to us. So if you're following along, we're now in week 5 of the Ben Wexler Brotherhood Cup, or what people are calling MPLS, is back. We did turn the page from week 4 to week 5 this past week, Nate. Both of you and I were there. It was a pretty interesting week of soccer, I would say. We'll get into it a little bit. For those of you that aren't following, maybe this is your first time you ever listen to the podcast, subscribe and get it because it's awesome. But the Ben Wexler Brotherhood Cup is a 7-a-side format that we are piloting. That is the Futures program pilot, but we're running a test program with the first and second team players, as well as some trialists. And head on over to mplscitysc.com/7v7-league. Again, that is mplscitysc.com/7v7-league, and you can learn all about it. You can see all the stats. You can learn about the Pick'em League we have, whatever. But anyways, on to us. So every week, we have 4 teams, pairing off and playing each other 2 games per week, side by side. We got some social distance fan opportunities, all great stuff, Nate. But why don't you talk a little bit about this past week?
Yeah, so John, the 2 week 5 games that we had were the hapless and winless Tackled by Turtles against the Paisley Park 99ers, and the other game being the Bob Dillionaires versus Morris Day and the One-Timers. And John, I'll tell you, we stood there in the sidelines, and it was definitely a night of psych outs. Like the expected felt quite elusive on this Wednesday night, because you figure, given the form that 3 of the 4 teams are in, I think we all predicted that this would have been a high scoring night. I'm sure we talked about it last week on the show, expecting like dozens of goals.
we just came off of a week where the Oliver twins paired up on a short-term loan, and one set up the other for 7 goals. Like, we're just coming off that. You can't replicate that every week. I mean, maybe they think so, but you can't replicate that every week. But we were thinking, like, okay, like the goals are coming, because we were in some pretty low-scoring weeks going into that.
Yeah, but as you and I, we're standing on the sidelines, we're noticing those goals seem to have dried up for at least one of those matchups.
Yeah, there was one that we're going to go into a little bit. Don't want to give away all of our gold we're going to talk about here, but definitely one you would have thought, like a team in form going up against the Tackle by Turtles, which has just the Tackle by Turtles experiment has failed thus far. And out of the 4 teams in the league, they are clearly the bottom team. But we're going to go into that a little bit as to why they're not far off from making a comeback. So, but yes, like I thought I was going to, be drinking my beer and watching some high flying goal scoring soccer. And then we got some pretty low scoring games.
Yeah, I agree. So let's start with a game where we knew that there would be goals, or we had expected many goals, and that is this Tackled by Turtles versus the 99ers game. 99ers coming off of their defeat last week. They felt like they probably had a bit to prove, and those poor Turtles were on the receiving end of that pain.
Poor Turtles. Yeah, I mean, they totally were. The score line was 9-5. It was our highest scoring game, but in itself, Nate, it's only a 4-goal difference. And in 7-a-side soccer, that's like a 3-1 win, right? In full 11-a-side. It's not that big of a gap. Coming off of that 7-goal experience that we had last week was the not the benefactor of the service, but the servicer, or the serviceur, I guess you could call it, and Tyler Oliver, who chipped in this time with going back to his parent club with 4 goals as the highest scoring player of the week to lead the pace for his squad. Which, if you remember this, what I said, the scoreline in 9-5, those 4 goals, where they came, 2 in the first half, 2 in the second half, whatever, that was the difference maker. So single-handedly, Tyler, without his brother, showed that, hey, I got some scoring touch too. We also saw another 2-goal, 2-assist performance by Mito, who is a previous MVP winner himself. But then, you shift over to the tackle by Turtles folks, and they picked up 2 new signings. Dom, who is a transfer from Milwaukee, from my old homeboys, the Bavarians, and we've had some really good luck with the transfers coming from that direction. Mark Haight comes to mind. But Dom stepped in, scored a goal in his first match, and then we have McCrae, who is a St. Thomas transfer from DePaul University, who chipped in with 1 goal in his performance as well. But what you don't hear is that they have defensive help, and that's been the problem. And we'll talk a little bit later about, when we talk about the weekly recap, where they currently sit and how they're not that far off. But they're clearly, Matt Elder's doing everything he can. Everyone joked about, Chairman Hudeman stepping in the goal and getting a bunch of goals slotted past him. It looks as if, though, Nate, with the Turtles, it's not necessarily scoring the goals, because they also have Division III leading goal scorer in the country last year, Cole Schwartz from Gustavus. So they're scoring goals. It's just that they're not necessarily stopping them. But the goal of the night in that game came from Ian Steve Smith, who was on the show a few weeks ago, with an absolute 25-ish range yard banger on a one-touch setup and finish that was a good end cap for them in a very frustrating evening.
Yeah, John, it was an angry goal too.
Oh, he was so mad.
It was because that was at the end of the first half, I believe, and that was the goal, the only goal that they had scored up to that point.
No, it was the last goal of the night for both games.
Are you sure?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay. I felt like it was like he was just obviously super frustrated at the way that the night has gone, especially as a guy who's plays defensive mid. So defensive duties do fall on him somewhat in these short-sided games. So to kind of take out the frustration that 9 had slipped past his defense and they didn't quite get on the board like they'd hoped. That was a good end cap for them, but damn. But I should say, John, it's worth noting that the Turtles, they're not, when we talk about being on the team, and Matt Elder, they're not hapless schlubs that are just kind of ready to get cut from Minneapolis City. These are there are some veteran city players in the mix. Mm-hmm. And from the start, they were set up for equal amounts of success, an equal amount as the rest of the other teams probably. But the thing is that the 7v7 league, this league in particular is kind of a learning experience for Minneapolis City. They're piloting the program so to make sure that all the kinks worked out for when the futures undertake this model. And I think the coaches have learned to remember to plan for people leaving for college.
Yep, number 1 on the list.
When
guys,
you set up a fall league.
Yep, guys may be leaving. We'll just
who was missing? Rory O'Driscoll and Eli Goldman from this team, right?
Yep, and there was one other person that I can't remember on the defensive end, but they were supposed to be the high flying attack.
They're not landing Huber, the Huber kid.
Oh yeah, Logan Huber. Yep. So they're missing a Division I caliber defender, and then you throw into the mix that Miles Norville got hurt. Murakami has had some obligations outside of work, so your defensive guys are now gone, and you're throwing in a project player in Jacob Popkin, who is still very much so a trialist. Then you add in 2 new players who aren't exactly defenders either, in McCrae and Dom. They're both attacking players or central midfielders. So can they play defense? Yes. Are they defenders? Absolutely not. So it's a weird thing, but I think you're exactly right. I think Steve Elder, and you can even throw Miles in there, even though he's absent right now due to injury. they're surrounded by new guys or younger players, and it's definitely very much so a learning opportunity for them to, be pissed off that you're getting beaten every week. However, it does kind of fall on you to help some of these new and younger guys along to teach them, the ways of being part of the club, and the fact that no one's a bad soccer player in the city environment, or we would not have them. So whether you're a project player who might be more suited for the forthcoming futures model, or you're a new player who we've got brought in, you're good enough to be there in some capacity. So it's on some of these, it sucks to say it, but it's on some of these more veteran players to figure it out. Maybe there's things you can do from a formation shift, or maybe there's things you can do from a tactical standpoint. It's not that hard. They've all been around the soccer field, and just because it's 7-a-side doesn't mean anything different. But if all else fails, you can just feed Cole Schwartz, who we know he can score goals. So maybe you give up one to score two kind of model. That could be an option too. Like, we're gonna throw everybody forward, and we're gonna give up goals, but we're gonna try to outscore you. That's another option that they could take, but they need to get into the ears of some of their defenders, like I mentioned, that aren't present right now, to get them to come to games to help. And I think that really will help. But the way it sits, yes, they're 0-5, but they lost, those 3 players to college, picked up what I feel is 2 very good free agents. And, you could tell those guys can play, and it's their first week. So maybe, I think one to watch would be how they perform this coming week. Now they're a little more comfortable. They've been to another training session on Monday with the guys. So perhaps, things get a little better. But they only sit 1 off second place in goals for with 21. And they only sit 8 back at the bottom in goals against. So like you said, they're not a bunch of schlubs. They have players. It's just more so figuring it all out together.
And if they can string together a few wins, with a 4-team league, there is a little bit of a log jam in the middle. So if they can string together a few wins, they're gonna poach some W's off of those other teams, and they could come crawling back, and those goals against stats could help.
Exactly.
But on to the second game, the Dillionaires versus the One-Timers, John. We really thought, man, with the goal scoring heat of Justin Oliver combined with Nick Hutton and week 1 MVP Bernard, helmed by Max Stiegwart, like this team lining up against a resurgent One-Timers team that has Joe Sway, Artie Perrins, the Will Kidd Samo connection. Like, this was going to be a goal fest.
Yeah, you would think so.
And on this, of all nights, it was not the case, which sucks for us, who chose the wrong Oliver as MVP.
Yeah, 100%. But we'll get into the MVP discussion a little bit here in a bit. But the recap of the game, it was a 5-3 game that went to the One-Timers, which I picked the Dillionaires. I thought they were going to be flying high. They had a lot of guys coming back. Kevin Hoof came back into the fray, but basically was very much on the defensive end, and it speaks to the fact that. When you look at the goal scorers, your productivity out of the Dillionaires was coming from two goals in the back of Wes Lawrence, who's one of your starting defenders. So obviously, Nate, that's not ideal when you're getting 2 goals from your defenders and you're not getting any goals. You're not getting more than a chip-in goal from, say, Nick Hutton, who's a guy who you would definitely think is going to score goals. On the flip side of the field, Zuhair recorded the first ever field player save,
yes.
dropping in behind the ever so popular field player save, dropping in behind a beaten Troy Luegi to clear a ball off the line, which I think was his ass. I don't think it was like a foot. I think it was just a rocket shot that hit him in the backside. But hey, whatever it is, man, whatever appendage you use outside of your hands, if you're a field player, it got him on the stat sheet in the goalkeeper book.
Mm-hmm.
But Devin Thompson for the One-Timers recorded 10 saves. And I think that's probably a little light, whoever was taking the stats. I thought he played fantastic. He's been there week in and week out. They haven't had any need for bringing another goalkeeper. But he's done the job for sure. And
so is his dog, by the way.
Yeah, so is his dog. But he kept them in that game, and at a 5-3 scoreline with 10 saves, you have to believe that maybe he was the difference maker in probably the night's best matchup. And then lastly, for the Billionaires, goalkeeper Mitch Wolf, who is new to the club, has kind of finally came back down to earth from his first 3 performances, recording his first loss. Not to say that, coming down to earth meant he didn't play well. He played great too. It was just one of those games where the goals fell on his shoulders. But I mean, all in all, I mean, we were kind of watching that game. I don't know why we chose to watch the Turtles get smoked again for a 5th week. I shouldn't say that get beaten for a 5th week. But that other game when we did kind of, glance over, it was a very, very much so a back and forth affair. And I think that, when we talk about my overall thoughts, for this week, we're now seeing the second swing for most of these teams seeing each other. And outside of the revolving door we mentioned, that is the Tackle by Turtles lineup, things are starting to really settle in. And I think teams are starting to game plan a little bit, have those conversations of how to face off against certain players that might be hot at the moment. Tactically starting to figure out some things on either side of the ball. So I think it's starting to get a little bit better. Speaking of the Turtles, I really do feel for them. I mean, they're trying to do their best, but perhaps, like I mentioned, there's some tactical things that they can do to turn around the over that they put up so far. And, maybe they need to just, some of the veteran guys just need to, if you're listening, maybe you want to call Uncle Biz up and maybe I can provide some assistance on how to maybe game plan for some of these other teams. But the third point really is that the action is still a very high level, Nate. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. It's only going to get better. The scoring was slightly down last week, but you really are starting to see more ball movement. We talked about last week or maybe 2 weeks ago on the show that what was missing in the previous weeks was, the off the ball movement. Guys making the second and third run. I think subbing has become more frequent and with more of a plan instead of, just haphazardly when a guy's getting tired. So, all of that, it ladders up into, some more success for these guys. But it really is starting to look more beyond the pickup league that we kind of called it a few weeks ago. And the leaders put the pieces and elements into place to make a run for the playoff portion of the sexy Wexy Brotherhood Cup. But here's the thing. All 4 teams make the playoffs, so no one's going to be left out. So a team like the Turtles, like you mentioned, could catch a heater and go for a run in the tournament and maybe use the next 4 or so games to admit defeat, but start working on some stuff and start taking in some scouting report on these other teams. And maybe, you never know, Nate, it might surprise some people.
Yeah, so I had a chance to talk to last week's co-MVPs, the Oliver brothers, and they were talking about something similar, right? Like, one is on the first place team, one of them is on the second place team, but they're now tied for second place. The third place team is only a game behind, right? So they talk about that a little bit too. Let's listen in. All right, what's up? I'm here with last week's co-MVPs, the Oliver brothers, Justin and Tyler. This week, not on the same team. Back to your original squads. First of all, what was it like last week when you realized, like, okay, we're going to be on the same team. It's time to activate the hive mind. How did that come together?
Man, so we were kind of down players, so we needed one person. And then out of everybody, Adam was like, Tyler, you're going to go play on this team today. In my head, I was like, hell yeah, I'm finally playing with Tyler again today. So that was a major positive for us, because if I got to choose literally anybody from any team to come play with us, it was definitely him, and it showed for our team this week. We lost 5-3, and I did absolutely nothing. And last week Tyler was with me, and I scored 6 goals. So clearly he's the key to my success.
That's true. A lot of people probably picked you for MVP this week as the write-in candidate on top of your 7 goals last week, but they should have picked probably the 7 assists. This week, 4 goals?
4 goals this week. It was good. I like to think I saved them all. Last week we didn't need them, and I knew we needed them today, so I kind of kept them in the bank. Naturally Justin's always kind of in the goal scorer out of the 2 of us. I'm not the best finisher, but I do pride myself on my final ball and way to pass. It's easy to play when you know where like 90% of your passes are going to go to instinctively before you get the ball. So it's just another level of comfortability out here when it's a bunch of talented players like that.
I mean, so what's that coming from? You guys obviously went to school together at St. Thomas, right? Where you played opposite each other, so it's easy, right? Twin Stars,
Yeah,
right?
we were at Twin Stars before that, 2 years together at EIU, and then all the way from club soccer starting at 14, and it was just our first look, and our coaches taught us to it was just play off each other. So when we get the ball, we just instinctively know where the other one is, and then it's 2 passes, and hopefully we're in.
One of my friends kind of phrased it best at Eastern. He was like, oh, you guys actually aren't that hard to defend sometimes, because if one of you has the ball, you just have to find the one who's off the ball, because that's probably where the ball's going to go. But that's maybe a little bit more of a secret than we should give away, but it's not a bad hint.
All right. So obviously the scope of, or the standings have changed a little bit today, as you guys, the black team has, what was it? The 99ers, right? You guys pulled out the victory, so
that takes the 4-1
that takes you
now
at 4-1, and the Billionaires have dropped 2 on the season.
So now we're at 3-2,
3-2.
and then the other team is also now at 3-2.
Yeah, that was some of the 99ers have gotten hot since the addition of Samo. So now the Samo St. Croix connection is strong. What's the plan for the rest of the season for? We'll start with the 99ers.
Again, I think we've done a good job of getting out to leads early, and in the 7-a-side game, you've got to get expansive to break a team down, and it just leaves a lot of space to counterattack. And I think one of the things that our team does really well between Zuhir, myself, Gato, and Midu is we kind of play off each other pretty well, knowing that we take up good pockets of space on counterattacks, and we're pretty fluid in the formation we play most of the time, so a lot of it's just recognizing good spaces and finding the open guy, and we get a lot of tap-ins too, which helps. So it's just a lot of smart players on this team.
Billionaires, you were up against, it looked like a well-organized one-timers team in that second half. What's the plan moving forward for you guys to climb back to the top?
The one-timers kind of smacked us this week, even though it was 5-3. It was pretty one-sided, to be fair, and they had a lot of the ball. So I mean, it's just coming back next week, and then we play against a tough 99ers. So it'll be a grind. But we know if we win that game, we're right back to even on top of the table. So that'll kind of be our momentum. And then obviously it'd be a major upset if Tackle by Turtles was able to pull one off of the Paisley Park. Is that who it is?
Yep.
Yeah. So we gotta win, and then hopefully at the end of next week it's gonna be a 3-way tie across the top of the standings.
Well, next week definitely no hive mind. It'll be brother against brother. So it's the week to play pick 'em and to win, so you can be here, everyone. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Nate.
So always a pleasure to listen to both the Olivers talk about their weird telekinesis that they have together on a soccer field.
Yeah.
But it is totally true. I mean, they mentioned how do you stop them when one has the ball, guard, triple team the other one.
Triple team.
And hope the one with the ball doesn't break down 1v1. But it's for those of you who have never seen them play together, and then you talk about just general, like, how positive soccer tactics and moving off the ball and how important it is. They don't have to guess the person is moving off the ball. They just put the ball into space where they're used to the other person being. And that's the kind of stuff that, like, over time, players that are not your brother and your twin brother at that, you start. And you hear Tyler talk about how he's starting to gain the same type of chemistry and working off of Gato and the cat and Midu, and that's a dangerous front three, right? Where if you can get that same chemistry that he has with his brother, that's a team to beat or a team to watch out for sure. But the other thing is that they mentioned it too, that like it really is anyone's tournament at this point. Like we talked about a playoff scenario where the slate gets wiped clean when we're talking about the Turtles, but you start to get these teams that have a little bit more firepower, and the table itself is so crowded that we could find that we're having this conversation next week, Nate, and the games tomorrow end up turning it all on its head.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Is and especially as the quote season starts to wind down and the playoffs begin, will we see the same inconsistencies in these rosters, or will the teams start to solidify? Will the rest of the teams solidify like the 99ers have, right? Will we stop having random people show up? Will we stop needing to trade players so that the brothers can play together? Stuff like that, right? Like how will the other teams build the chemistry that the 99ers have? And it looks like the one-timers have started to do that.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I would say that even the Turtles themselves too, they've had a consistent group of guys that have been there, and they just need to figure out what makes them do their best.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they can do it. However, you never know, man. I mean, it's soccer's a weird game. But great to hear the Olivers. Always a pleasure. So yeah, anyways, Nate, let's talk a little player of the week action.
Yeah.
One to the untrained ear or eye would think that you would just have your first ever back-to-back MVP honor given out to Tyler Oliver for separating himself from the Oliver hive mind and going back to his old team and scoring 4 goals to the victory. But we have a new thing, Nate, that we haven't had previously, and that is the fact that we are giving the award out to a goalkeeper, and that goes to Devin Thompson, who is in his first season with Minneapolis City, comes to us via Noka Ramsey Community College, and was selected for Minneapolis City 2 on the back of those 10 saves that he had in his 5-9 victory over the 99ers, which then put them up to the top of the table. So hats off to you, Devin. We'll ask Devin some questions this coming week for next show. But we have our first goalkeeper finally, and it's not Zuhair taking one off the ass.
No, that's exciting, and it's good because we've watched Devin, ever since the first week that I went when you pointed him out to me, and his distribution is cool. He's just
does his job.
He does his job, and then the saves that he was making last week were amazing. So it's good to see that he gets some recognition. Let's talk about pick'em leaders, right?
We can't forget the Golden Boot race, Nate.
Oh yeah, how are we doing in the Golden Boot race?
So the Golden Boot race.
This can't be up to date.
No, what you're seeing is not. I forgot to update that. I have it in front of me though. So the Golden Boot race is heating up and at the top, and it's fairly close considering it's also 7v7 where a lot of goals can happen. But Justin Olivers hits the top with 12 goals, 7 of those coming in one game. So he still scored them, but you have to wonder, can he do it across multiple games? But he leads the Golden Boot race with 12, followed by Cole Schwartz for the tackle by Turtles. We're talking about how they're losing, but they are scoring goals. He's in at 11, so he's one off the pace, which is impressive if you look at the fact that Justin scored 7 in one game. Followed up by Midu Youssef of the 99ers with 7, and then Will Kidd with 6, and then Josue Batule with 5, tied with Tyler Oliver coming off that 4-goal game with 5 as well. If you want, Nate, we can talk a little bit about assist leaders, because I think this is actually pretty impressive. So midfielder Matt Gibbons from Gustavus currently sits at 12 assists, with the next player being Tyler Oliver at 9, who came off that 7 assist performance last 2 weeks ago. But then he's followed up by Mido Youssef at 7, and then the rest are like 4, 3, 2, and 1. So Matt Gibbons is really showing that he can score with chipping in with 2 goals, but the atmosphere that came with him from his previous 3 seasons at Gustavus, where he can score goals and put the team on his back, but he also is very much so a pass first player, is starting to show within the city environment, having those 12 assists. So definitely one to watch as the assist leader so far. But anyways,
good to see, and important to note that a pass first player can succeed at a high level in soccer.
Yes, isn't it
for all you kids out there trying to score bangers? Why don't you figure out how to distribute the damn ball?
It's funny, Nate, that a pass.
Yeah, interesting.
And if you, okay, now you got me on a rant.
Yes.
I'm a little granddad in here.
Yes.
We'll clink the glass here. I'm getting down to just ice cubes, but we're almost done. But you start. We talked to Justin and Tyler. They talked about the cohesion and the off the ball movement that they have together, and knowing where guys are going to be. And Tyler saying that, conceding that yes, he can score goals, but he's also the one of the twins that sets the other one up, as well as other players. And you look at him having 7 assists in one game. He had to provide those passes with what he mentioned is the properly weighted pass in the right spots for players, his brother aside, whoever it may be on the other end of the receiving end of the pass. But he talked about the importance of making sure that you're sharp in that area. So yes, you're 100% right. Like, how many guys on this list, from a goal scoring perspective, outside of Cole, who's just really a pure goal scorer, who just kind of gets those goals. When you get him in front of goal, he knows how to finish. How many guys out of Justin, Cole, Bidu, Will Kidd, Tyler Oliver, and Joe Sway in the top half are guys that are going to beat you one-on-one and create their own goal? Not a lot. No. These guys are ones that are going to make the right run and then latch on to the end of a good pass. Midu maybe is the guy who can break a player down at more of a high percentage 1v1. Justin can do it with his speed. Like I mentioned, Cole's more, I'll call him garbage goal scorer, but they're still goals. But the rest of the guys, they're all guys that like to move off the ball and find it. And if they don't get it, find another area to get it. So, Nate, very astute point that you made there.
That's right. That's all I got.
Yeah. Sometimes you bottle up lightning and you let it go once.
Pick 'em leaders, John, for the week. All but one person. I don't know what they were thinking, but everyone picked the 99ers over Tackled by Turtles. You just gotta go with. I mean, it's a 3-0 count. You don't swing.
I won't shame
to mix my sports metaphors.
I won't shame the person and mention their name.
It could be someone that's wishful thinking, hoping to support a friend. Who knows?
No, this is a person with knowledge. It's not me or you.
I know it wasn't me. Brian Schreier and another team who named themselves Morris Day and the One-Timers for some reason. Yeah. Got the second match score correct. Both guessing 8. John, you and I somehow got match score 1 correct with 14. No cheating was involved, but I think both of us were laughing on the sidelines thinking we both picked way too high. So funny that it actually ended up at 95.
Yeah, right. I looked at it when I was putting the show notes together and I was like, holy shit, we actually got that right.
I had no idea that was a score when that game was over. I thought it was much less than that.
No, we definitely had 14 correct, but week 5 didn't do a whole lot to the top of the table. Folks did not nail the big 10-pointer in selecting Devin. That was a little bit out of nowhere, but now you got to start thinking about the goalkeeper matchups, Nate. So if we're talking about points leaders for the week, Uncle Biz's Ballers, that'd be me. I clocked in at 9 points on the back of correctly picking both teams and then getting that score correctly. Brian Schreier and his own Morris Day and the One-Timers clocked in at 5. David Zeller in the Hamlin Hero Specs at 4. So not a lot of high scores. We had some weeks, the past 2 weeks, where it was like 12 and 15, and but now we're at we're back down to the single digits as it's getting harder to pick. But after week 5, the leaderboard at the top has not changed a ton. Fortunately, John Bisworm of the Uncle Biz's Ballers lead the table with 39 points, followed by Colin O'Donnell and the replacements for Seasons at 32. So, a correct score line and a correct game match pick. He's right up there with me. Bryn Shank with MCSC Till I Die at 27. David Zeller with the Hamlin Hero Specs at 26. And then you, Nate, with PK Control following up with a measly 24.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just trying to keep up.
just happy to be here.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, congrats to the week's top pickers. You should have already been contacted by Sarah about the spot you earned to watch live Wednesday night. And if not, that info will be coming to you hopefully soon as possible. But for the rest of us, keep up the good work. Always, you can try to go because there's 5 spots open every week anyway. So if you want to go see these games outdoors, it's the perfect weather to go watch some outdoor soccer, and the games are super exciting and a whole ton of fun. So I really encourage, if you haven't made it up to Blaine yet, just bring your Coleman folding chair and relax for an evening. You can bring beer, but don't tell anyone.
I didn't hear that. Even though I already mentioned that we sat there drinking beers on the sideline. Anyways, that is all for this week's show, folks. Thank you, as always, to our show sponsor, Summit Brewing Company. October is already in the air. We're only a week away. And you know what that means, Nate? Oktoberfest is in stores. I personally own 2 pairs of lederhosen, which means I for sure love to celebrate the Oktoberfest parties. I have it coursing through my veins this time of year. So get to stores today and fill up your fridge with some goodness. Summit, a more meaningful brew since 1986. If giving back to the community means a lot to you, maybe it's time to give to the club that loves to give back. Minneapolis City is a 501c3 that provides a safe, reliable, and fun environment for young people to play the beautiful game, as well as our newly formed Futures Scholarship Fund, which is also tax deductible. So consider that donation to a truly city-focused organization. Help some people out, folks. Do you have anything you want us to cover? I actually asked it in this week's Pick'ems. We have a whole hopper full of questions that people are asked of me, Nate. So maybe we reserve next week's show for some fan questions. But are there any guests you want us to have on? Any players? Anyone outside of the city world that we might be able to try to sink a hook into? Send us mail. It's real easy to do. Hit us up on Twitter at The People's Pitch or through email at mcsepodcast@gmail.com. If calling's more your speed, if you want to hear your voice live on this lovely show, we have our hotline. It's 612-460-5683. All questions, comments, and concerns are welcome. And finally, you can complain to the club at MPLS City SC on Twitter. So that does it for this week's show, Nate. I'm John. That was you. We'll be back next week with more 7v7 action and some pick'em results. So get those picks in, and you got hoofed.
Poster burning maple weeds, cradle major keys. Thinking back, I've been major since the minor league. So supreme, too much sauce off my olive NMDs. I could staple steez, bend the goat so I get the cheese, never fall. Rake them leaves and make sure every moment gets seized. And everything I see is make